All right. First green room in a while.
Green room.
Remember the green room when we're going live?
Oh,
Now
yeah,
look at
yeah.
you, buddy.
At
You make
first,
me
I was
feel like an
like, "What are
idiot
you
for having
talking
sitting
about?"
there. I
No,
gotta make
I'm
sure
sorry.
the sweet dress is in the background there. Shout out to Zoe Sparkly.
It is a nice dress.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a little Easter egg for people who are
Look
not
at you
on
using
the
Easter egg, by the way.
we're not doing final thoughts here because it's a post game pod. But the next final thought we do, I have sent Elliot homework for the final thought.
Yes, you did, and I've already done it. So
I'm keep your thoughts to yourself, but I'm
I
really
will. I will.
I knew it was
I will.
not a strenuous homework. So all right, here we go.
Yes.
Let's roll. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast. James Seltzer and Eliot Shorr-Parks from Lincoln Financial Field, where he was just in person to witness potentially the least meaningful game in the history of the NFL.
It's honestly,
we did it. We found
honestly, let me say this, okay? First, let me say this: that
wow.
if you are listening to this pod and watch that game, we are sickos, one and the same. Like that
dude,
was.
There are people watching us live right now. Can I just say I love you? You are
it's absurd.
You are the diehardest of the diehards.
So
it's amazing. Thank you.
Without question, this pod and seeing your face and having people watch is infinitely better than what we saw out on that field today. Like that was horrendous. I have a serious take before we get into it, but like joking, that was a very boring football game. Like no question about
it. Because you know me, like Mister and I, and we've battled about it all, but like training camp, we can battle about preseason games. To me, as we've discussed, mean absolutely nothing. And this one of all of them coming out of joint practice with no one playing, like couldn't mean less. But it is funny because last preseason game, the first one was like the first time I said to you in the history of us doing the pod together. I'm like, that was fun. More of that. It was great. But look, I think we knew it was going to head this way when we saw, when at the joint practice, we knew like no Tanner McKee, even like the really going lower on the depth chart offensively, particularly. But Eliot, like for it to be as bad as it, and we'll get to some good, like Makuba, shout out a day for the Rook. John Campbell, we'll get into some stuff that was like fun to see, but man, like you want to talk about watching an offense just die in front of your eyes, drive after drive. I mean, DTR and Kyle McCord fighting for that job might be the worst battle in the history of position battles today. That was awful. What, they have like 60 something yards of offense?
Dude, so I'm looking here. They had 88 total yards. They had 55 passing yards. Like, look, I know it's preseason and I know blah, 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 blah. That was an awful performance. You can say that the players are not the ones that'll play in the game on offense, and that's true. It was all backups. On defense, they had a decent amount of guys in there that are competing for roles. And like you said, we'll get into Makuba and that. But like that was just a terrible performance by the Eagles. There's no getting around that. They're lucky that was a Saturday afternoon at 1:00. If that was the first preseason game, I think people would be legitimately upset. And I think rightfully so. I understand that you're not going to but let's just call it what it is.
Like I wasted my time. I don't know if I have any large things coming up.
They wasted our time. They wasted our time. That was a horrendous performance today.
And I certainly don't feel good about whoever 40 through 53 on the roster is going to be, or not 40, like 46 through 53 or whatever it's going to be.
And that's what I'm saying. Like the Browns played way better than the Eagles today. The Browns had 331 total yards of offense.
By the way, for those who might not have paid attention, Browns played all their backups too. Like
yes, exactly.
That's my point. I'm just saying it was not like the Bengals versus the Eagles backups or anything. Like everyone sat in this game for the most part.
And like the thing is, I agree it was boring. I agree it was not an afternoon of Eagles football we'll remember, but that doesn't make me think it doesn't matter.
Maybe we'll remember it, just not for a good reason.
But it still matters. Like what's that like gif of the guy in the wrestling being like, it's real to me, God. Like that's how I feel. Like I'm sitting up here in a booth at the Link, everyone's gone, and it's honest to God, like that was an embarrassing performance. I mean, the quarterbacks were awful. The offensive line was terrible. The defense was bad for most of the game. If Makuba doesn't make that play, they end up with 6 points, right? And the defense, Dillon Gabriel. By the way, for those that said the Browns didn't outplay the Eagles in practice or whatever, like, did you look at that? Like, that's what it looked like.
And it was total backups today.
But again, they were playing
I'll
backups.
give
They were
you
also
my meme counter to your meme is a similar vibe of type of meme. One of my favorite GIF meme things out there is the guy who turns around at the wedding to see the wife and is just like bawling his eyes out, where it's like,
wow, what a deep cut meme. I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
where it's like the me when I see,
Oh, yes.
and the guy's like,
Yes.
oh, he's like,
Yeah.
like that's me when I see the Eagles starters finally take the field in the game that matters. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God,
We
dude.
better hope. We better hope. Like, and look, obviously, I understand when the better players are out there, they'll play better. But it's been a bad week for this team. You think about how you felt, right? You're actually a perfect example of this in a way. Think how excited you were after that last preseason game. Tanner looked awesome. We were talking about, hey, they had all those yards of offense, like Patullo doing a good job. Look how deep this team is. The receiver position, is so much deeper than we thought. There is, other than Makuba, there is probably not many, if any, positives to take from this game.
Campbell had, and he got
Campbell was good.
He had that really nice sack, and Aziz Ojulari had a sack.
Aziz Ojulari had a sack, but
there's not much good
from the end of that last preseason game to now. It's been a rough week for this team. They were not good against the Browns. The Landon Dickerson injury happened, and this was a bad performance. Like, we could again sit here and say it doesn't matter, but we are all sitting here talking about it. You're either listening, talking in the chat, we're doing a pod. People came to this game and watched. Like, people cared enough to at least engage in this game, and the Eagles didn't seem to care as much. And we can point to this as like DTR is just bad. Yeah, maybe, but like on the DTR play that was bad, the snap is high from Trevor Keegan. Oh no, sorry, Brett Toth. Like, Kyle McCord was decent, I guess, kind of. I think he probably locked down a roster spot today. DTR is not making this team. They're going to keep
awful.
Yeah,
he looked like they took a kid out of the stands and said, "Here, go play quarterback."
Right. I think I've been extremely complimentary of the Eagles as a franchise, as a coaching staff, as a roster, all those things. Like, that was a bad showing from them today. And I'm not just going to excuse the franchise for a bad game because it was backups. Like, this is what preseason games are. I've watched every Eagles preseason game for, my whole life, but in person, I don't know, 15, 16 years or whatever. And that's probably the worst I've ever seen it. To have 88 yards of total offense is absurd because, yes, they're playing backups, but they're also going against backups. They weren't able to exploit the bottom of the Browns roster. We think the Browns are one of the worst team in the NFL. Like, to your point, how are we supposed to feel about roster spots 40 through 53 after watching that?
Yeah, look, I get it. And I'm thinking this as you're talking, and I think it kind of jives with the tone of conversation on this podcast and even on the morning show when you were on him, interviewing and we were going back and forth and stuff. I think that this is an extension of your week and of you watching this team have a bad joint practice and whatnot. Like, whereas for me, like, the joint practices we can debate. And, there are things that whether, I'm not excited about the corner spot. I get that, but I'm not as concerned about Jalen or the offense coming out of it with guys missing out, whatever. But like, for this preseason game, like, I get it. And I think it's fair to say the bottom of the roster is going to be worse, I think, this year. Whereas last year, we've talked so much about losing all those guys on defense, particularly the Milton Williams, Darius Slaves, and Josh Sweats, and, the cavalcade, the CJGJs, all the guys, and how we've talked so much about the people who are going to replace them, whether it's the Ojomas or, who's going to play safety or this, that, whatever. And I think I think we might see some of that really impact the team on the field, depending on that corner spot, or if Makuba can turn into something at safety or this or that or whatever. But I think where it really is going to impact this team, or has a chance to impact this team, is what we're seeing with the depth, with the fact that because Milton Williams, because Moro Joma has to play, Moro Joma's not behind Milton Williams, and so on and so forth at other positions and whatnot. So I do think, Sidney Brown has to maybe play because he's not behind, or whatever.
Yeah. Like, or today they're cycling corners in and out, like into halftime. Like, they have no idea who their starting corner is going to be.
I think there are things you can point to. For the majority of this game today, I think, like, especially offensively, there were no players who are going to matter, or no player. If these guys are mattering, then things have gone wrong.
Agreed.
That's a problem. And that's a problem. I will not defend the depth of this team right now. And that was something I said coming in to camp as one of my bigger concerns. And that I think is what you take away from this week. And this is like a concern for me, because there was a lot of depth that was needed in the joint practices, as you guys talked about.
Yeah.
But, like, specifically the tone of, like, this game was an abomination other than it from wasting our time. I can't get too worked up.
Look,
You know what I mean?
I get
what I
your
mean?
point. I get your point.
And
I'll
I think
just
it's
say
because you were
that,
down there. It's you
yeah,
saw it. You know, we talked. I think that's the number one thing in our disagreements that we've said that you and BLJ pointed out is like when you guys are down there seeing it every day and feeling it, you're going to be more emotional about it.
Well, one last big picture thing quickly before we get to the specifics. Like, I'll just say this, that chances are you'll end up being right. They'll probably start 3-1 or 2-2. They'll beat the Cowboys, and like probably we'll look back at this and go, classic Eliot overreacting to preseason, right? But I'll just say this for the Eagles. Like, if they think they're just going to turn it on in week 1, they better be right, because this was a rough week. And preseason performances like this, it's not a big deal to lose a preseason game. It's not a big deal to look bad in a preseason game. I think it is a big deal for that. Like, I think that is kind of a potential red flag where if they come out sloppy in week 1 against Dallas, obviously it's a different group of players, but I think this last week at camp has raised some red flags for me. And maybe I'll end up being wrong. I hope I am. I hope when next time I'm in this room after Dallas week 1, you're being like, oh, so I thought right? I hope that's what happens. I'm just saying 88 yards of total offense to me is a red flag for how this team is operating right now. Players
and
aside.
Look, and I'll give a little too, because I do. That's fair. Like, I don't have a comeback to that in terms of like that shouldn't happen. They shouldn't be that bad. The
right.
low, but on top of that too, like I'll give in the sense that like I do think when we're battling about this training camp thing, and you bring up the point that if you're going to be, competitive team and compete all the time and everything matters, then it is hard for me to come back on that. What I have to rely on, what I feel, and is that. This team did win the Super Bowl
for sure.
4 or 5 months ago, and I think that they deserve some benefit of the doubt with.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Kind of like my overall feeling with it, but like I do think it's fair when you say, if you're going to compete, everything should matter, and you should compete harder, and like that. It's not like you'd rather they look good like that. So I don't want to seem like I'm just being like, Ellie, you freaking idiot.
No, I know, right?
You know what I mean? Like, I get where you're coming from. It's just for me, I'm coming much more from a place of A, I'm not seeing it every day like you are, but B, I just have too much faith in this group, in the way they go about their business and all that, to personally overreact to stuff that's happening now.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm like you. Yeah.
No, by the way,
I get it. I get it.
I've had so many people come up to me and be like, yo, you and Seltzer Friday morning were really going at it, like blah, blah. So I guess people enjoyed it. Yeah, I didn't even think it was that bad, honestly.
I've joked with Emily too, and this is one of my favorite things about Eliot. And it's something I think is really important in our business, and it doesn't always happen with everyone. But like Eliot and I can like berate each other for a second, and I can say, you ignorant idiot or whatever, and we'll high five at the end of the second.
Yeah.
Know that it was a really fun back and forth, and we got energized by it and stuff. And like, not everyone's like that, so I know we could do that. But it is funny because I felt like that was a pretty mild debate.
I was gonna say I didn't even think it was that big of a deal, but dude, yeah, people were in on it. Yeah, we've had it way worse than that.
You have got me way more worked up than
that. Easily about final takes, let alone football. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. All right. So let's get into some specifics. Let's we've been a dour 13 minutes so far.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple of the good things, then we'll get to the other concerns. But look, Makuba, it is against, not a bunch of starters out there, but the guy, he needs to step up. He's someone, I think, if the Eagles in a perfect world, he's their week 1 starting safety. If it were up to them and everything could play out the way they wanted. It was nice to see him take advantage, and it was the pick. It was a nice play, took it to the house, was around the ball. It's not like the fumble recovery was some amazing play, but he was there. He's aware. He's on top of things. Mm-hmm. So it's just not for a guy who was hurt a bit, has had a quiet training camp period so far, at least to the public. I was really happy to see some stuff from him today.
Yeah, so I think that obviously these are instant reactions. We'll rewatch the game and see how Makuba actually looked like snap to snap. But if you're Makuba, that's how you win the job. I mean, Sydney obviously had that pick 6 2 years ago, I guess it was.
Arizona,
but like
right? Was it
right,
Arizona?
but yeah, it was Arizona. But outside of that, he hasn't done anything at camp remotely as big as that. And he didn't do anything in the first preseason game either. So I think the interception was encouraging to me in a couple ways. One, from my view of it, it looks like he fought through 2 guys to get to the ball. If his whole thing is that he's undersized. To see him get physical, get through two guys, and get to the ball, I thought was really good. Two, it looked like he came from behind the guy the ball was intended for and caught it. So like
it was hard to tell from like the copy, like kind of how he got in there. But you're right,
he kind of baited him
in there.
Exactly. It almost looks like he baited him into it. Now,
because like the one angle, it's like, oh, he just threw it right to him, but it doesn't look like he did. It looked like Makuba got position and made that play happen.
And it was obviously an awesome play. I think you could argue the fumble recovery in some ways is just as encouraging to me. Like he didn't force it, but to locate that ball super quickly, get down, he got up, like he picked it up and looked like he was going to run. And
and he saw it immediately. He was no one else on.
That's what I'm saying. He was the one.
I'm with you. Especially that position, safety. We talk a lot about recognition, about knowing what you're seeing, what's going on around you. You know.
So I thought that was good. He had 5 interceptions, I think, at Texas last year. If neither Sydney or Makuba are going to be awesome in camp, then at least pick the guy that's going to create turnovers. And I do think Makuba seriously helped himself today, because we said this when they drafted him. I think they want Makuba to start. And I've been saying this on the dailies over the past few weeks. Like, it felt like Sydney was pulling away, but I think Makuba, they want him. They're like waiting for him to do something. And today he did 2 big time things. So yeah, I mean, literally couldn't have gone better for him today. And again, snap to snap, we'll see. They'll have a better read on how they feel he did in coverage and whatnot. But just to make that play through people, come away with it, run it back, and then to pick the fumble up is really good. So yeah, I thought that was an awesome showing for him. And I mean, I think maybe he's tied with Sydney now, if not the leader. And these next few practices become big.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I also think, like, yes, you want to pick the guy who has a chance to make a big play, but you also want to pick the guy who's not going to give up more big plays.
Agreed.
And we know that Sydney
will do that.
A little reckless with that. And we don't know that Makuba is super smart or whatever, but like we think he can be. And it'll be interesting to see. The other guy I think, who flashed the most, and it wasn't in there long, but you've talked about it all camp, and fans haven't got to see it quite as much, but and I know it's against backups, but Campbell he does look different out there.
Yeah, he's the best athlete on the field almost every time he's on the field. Yeah,
flashes. He's one of those guys who flashes, and you've seen it a lot and talked about it a lot. He's one of those guys who keeps coming up, and in the hits who do on WIP and stuff. But I thought Campbell, you could see it. Like he might need to learn where to be and what to do at all times. But in terms of just physical ability, man, like he's special.
Yeah, so I thought, it's no coincidence that in 2 preseason games, he's nearly had an interception and he has a sack. Like, this is just what he does at practice. He's around the ball, and it's not always a completion of the play, but he's at least there to make it. And I thought the sack he had today, like, there was a big hole up the middle for sure, but he still had to use the closing speed to get there, make the play, and bring him down. And in the pregame show, me, Ike, and Hugh, and Gilio, we're talking about what could... Thank you. No big deal to me. We're like talking about what his role could be and if he'll start week 1. And I think he probably will. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. playing into like the 3rd is probably not a great sign for Trotter's chances of starting. But I think even if Campbell doesn't start, you can find 20 snaps a game to put him on the field and just make the defense guess where he's going to be. Like, if you're the Cowboys and you're game planning for the Eagles, one thing you do not know an answer to right now is how the Eagles are going to use Campbell and what he's going to do when he's on the field. So if I'm Dak Prescott week 1 and 3 weeks or whatever, Campbell's out on the field, I'm a little like, okay, where's this guy going? Like, identify where he's going to be, because he is, this is maybe not the best analogy, but we talk about Jalen Hurts' arm is kind of not strong enough for him to make up for mistakes. Like, he has to be smart with where he goes with it. I think Campbell is athletic enough to make up for mistakes. Or maybe a better analogy for that is probably Trotter and Dean. Yeah,
like how as you were talking, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like he needs to learn where to be and stuff, but for now, he can sometimes not be where he's supposed to be
and still make the play. Yep. Yeah. So no, I thought he was awesome today for sure.
Yeah. All right. We'll get to the disaster that is the offensive side of what actual takeaways you do have from that. But
the corners. You want to talk about the corners?
Yeah, the corners. Look, it was guys running in and out. I mean, poor Brandon Johnson, I believe his name is. I mean, it just felt like he was getting abused when he was in there. But overall, I mean, look, and we'll get to the pass rush after. Let's do the corners first.
Okay, so I thought it was interesting that he's still cycling guys in and out. Like Adoree', I think it was Adoree' and Keeley started, but then Adoree' comes out, Bennett comes in, and then Keeley comes out. So he's definitely
knocked out, by the way, for those just tuning in, or if you missed it, he got knocked out of the game, but it seemed like he was okay.
Did he go back in? I thought he seemed like
I didn't know if he went back in or not.
He seemed fine-ish, I should say. Yeah, so... Okay. Bennett had a really nice pass breakup, so that was a positive play. Keeley, so to me, it looked like there was one play, and I'm kind of reading my notes here, but where it looked like he gave up a long catch on a crosser. What I don't know yet, and
You have notes? Come on, man.
yeah, tell me about it.
Come
Yeah,
on, man. Yeah,
but
that's more than most people should ever even consider with what we watch.
yes, amen. These notes will not be being saved like all my
These are
training
not
camp
going
stats.
into the Hall of Fame.
No.
Thing. Yeah,
But the cross that Keeley gave up, it looked to me like he almost thought Bennett was going to pick him up as he went. So maybe that was more of a miscommunication. Adoree had a nice tackle on the opening drive against the run. He's been a good tackler in space. I'll give him that. It feels like when he's been one-on-one with a guy, he's brought him down. But again, I don't know if anyone stepped forward with the job today. I mean, Bennett had the pass breakup. That was probably the best play of all of them.
And Dylan Gabriel seems so limited as a quarterback. It just like he didn't have, he couldn't throw the ball deep. It seemed like they didn't really have like much going on. Anything from the pass rush? I know Azeez Ojulari had the sack. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it was good to say. It was a good sack. Now he's going up against backups, but it didn't. He didn't luck into it. Yeah, he didn't luck into it.
It felt weird seeing the 13 make the sack. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I know you're very against that number, but
my favorite number.
It's such a shame. Yeah, but like it looked like he got good bend on it. It looked like he earned the sack, so that was good to see. But the last defensive thing I'll say is I touched on it briefly, but I think it's worth mentioning. Yes, it was not their starters, but Ojulari, Uche, Sidney Brown, Keeley, Adoree Jackson, Campbell, Trotter Jr., Makuba, like there were a lot of key players on that defense that Dylan Gabriel, who by the way, Dylan Gabriel didn't even look good the past 2 days of practice.
And he didn't look good today. They just made him like it was like these weak
guys were wide open too.
It felt like it was just like kind of like
yep. And I feel like he got 4 or 5 throws where guys were wide open. Like, so
depth is the biggest of all the training camp stuff we've talked about, of all the, concerns we've had. For me, the secondary and the pass rush and just the overall depth, once you get past like the guys we trust, the Quinyon Cooper,
like the 5 or 6 guys,
even a Joe Mo, Nolan Smith, even Jalix Hunt, who, we're not sure, but we like it's all those guys after they're going to need a couple of those guys to step up and make plays. And right now it's no one is doing it, other than maybe Josh Uche a little bit, here and there.
No, I agree.
That's concern. All right, let's get to speaking of concern. Again, I don't know how much you can take away from it. All backups, but look, Brett Toth was out there playing all game. Like, I guess there's a chance he could have to play week 1. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, I'm not prior. Like, so what do you make of whatever you can make of the
offense
abomination that we saw on offense today?
So I do think the offense, like, I'm willing to concede personnel there, right? Obviously, but yeah, they were terrible. Like, they were horrendous. They were unable to throw the ball. The snapping was bad. The quarterbacking was bad. The offensive line was bad. I mean, Aniyah Smith, for what it's worth, has improved at receiver. I think he would probably be the one positive I saw on offense. It's impossible to grade the receivers. I mean, they only had, again, 55 yards passing, so they didn't get shots at the ball. The only
question real quick, was Darius Cooper, it's hard to tell in the TV copy, was he out there? I know he only had the one target. Was he took him out of the game earlier? Was he out there and just not involved?
I didn't see him late in the game. Yeah, I didn't see him late in the game. Okay, I will say I did see him on special teams to start the game, so that's probably encouraging for his roster spot.
For him, yeah.
I joked about it, but I do think it's the biggest takeaway on offense, which is Kyle McCord is going to be on the roster, and they're going to cut Dorian Thompson.
DTR stinks, dude. Stinks. He's an offense to the quarterback.
He's been better in camp, so I can't completely get there with you, but he was bad today. I agree. He was bad.
That's the funny thing. I mean, he plays quarterback better than the 99.99999% of the
No, I know, but he was bad. Yeah,
99.999% of the world. Yeah, but he was awful. That one play. I mean,
it was the one play where it's batted and then
blooper, popped up, and then he throws the pick and they take it to the house. It's like, oh, come on.
Also, all seriousness, like AJ Dillon, bro, you can't catch that ball. Like, you're a veteran. Why are you catching it? Like, bat it down. You cost him like 10 yards there.
There was another one. I was talking about the one that was, the actual pick.
Anyway. Right. Yeah, but the play earlier in the game where like the offensive linemen both jump up to bat, it was just an embarrassing showing. But there's no way they're gonna keep DTR on the roster at this point. So good day for Kyle McCord. I thought it was a little weird how, and maybe they'll use this as an excuse, like they rotated him. Like one started and then they
I thought weird too. I assumed it would just be like first half, second half, something.
Yeah. I wonder, and I'm not at Nick because of this, but I do wonder if he's gonna say they did that because they wanted to like get him used to going in on the fly and not because that's what they'll do. Like they're not so maybe that's why, but
I'm sure harder. I'm sure it is harder when you can't get in a rhythm and all that. I get that.
Yeah. I just
excuse. I mean, they were awful. I'm just,
Yeah, I do think you've made the point, and it's probably my takeaway on offense, and maybe my final big point with this game is like the depth. The depth is a concern. Like we walk around, they're like the Eagles have the best roster in the NFL, and they might like 1 through 22, but man, it gets quickly down to like status with this team.
Yeah, I think that's maybe, and look, hopefully it's not something that plays out. Hopefully they're healthy and it's not a huge deal and all that, and some guys step up. But I think that's maybe the like conversation thing we missed. We were like a hair off on with like all those losses. It was like, who's going to replace those guys in the starting rotation? And I think it could be even more like who's going to replace them in starting rotation, but also who's behind those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Someone gets hurt and who's going to, it's just, a lot less.
I mean, I remember when I did my first 53, I told you that it was not, it
You
was
did.
hard
You
for
did.
me to get to 53
You
players.
did.
Yeah.
You did.
And I
You
think
did.
that's become
Playing
true.
out. And look, that matters. We know that, again, I think, and we talked about with the Dickerson injury where it was like almost like jarring for us to have a potential big injury early in the season prior to the season because we're so not used to that lately. Like, I do think that we have been kind of desensitized a bit over the last few years to forget that, like, look what happened to the Lions last year. Look what happened. And can't the Eagles have some magic elixir? Like, it's not going to work every single year where they just do this preseason thing and no one ever gets hurt. Like, that's not
agreed.
Football. So they, so the question is, how many injuries do they suffer, and how much can people fill in? But you're right, Eliot. I think that right now is definitely my biggest concern. I had to point out a concern. It
might be a bit of a red flag that we think Darius Cooper is definitely making the team, and he's an undrafted receiver out of Tarleton State. Like, you
never know. But again, he's like
I like him as a player for sure, but
he's a sixth receiver. We don't even know that they'll keep six receivers. It was just
you're right.
I think the bigger issue is like, the third and fourth pass rush, the third cornerback, the fourth cornerback, the fifth cornerback, the third safety, the second safety. It's like, we'll see. We'll see. Again, I'm not, me, I'm not going to freak out yet for sure.
Well, especially on a Saturday afternoon. We can't have upset James on a Saturday afternoon. I
know. Come on. No, I'm out. It's all good. It's all good. We're
all right.
We got a family hang going on. I'm with Zoe and Emily.
Beautiful. I'm happier now that I'm talking to you. That last half of the game, I was like, I really, really want to go home. But this has been an enjoyable pod, so I'm happy.
I actually had a lot. I can't believe we actually somehow got 26 minutes out of this game.
Same.
All right. We will be back this week, obviously, based on practices and reacting and all that, but a normal week of pods. Also, shout out 1 week from today, we're going to be getting ready to see our guy Tucker Bagley get married.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Good point.
Shout out.
Next Saturday, we'll be way happier than this Saturday.
And we will have a lot of content coming from that for you guys, I'm sure, as well. A lot of jokes and a lot of fun coming from that.
Yes.
All right, we'll be back later in the week. Please don't rewatch that game.
Amen. Amen.
To quote an old Jalen one, flush it. Okay. All right, we'll be back next week. Until then, he's Adam James.